Hey everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we are getting caught up with hay, straw, and lawn mowing. The kids are just starting in after lunch on some lawn mowing. I swear they're going to have to mow till dark today. They're getting such a late start on it. I told them I was going to make them pizza for lunch today, and all bets were off. So they weren't coming out to get started until they got fed their pizza. So a lot of housework got done and a lot of schoolwork got done while Dad went and raked straw. We had torrential rain pours come around here in the last week, probably 2 big storms, like inches of rain within a couple of minutes, like five-minute thunderstorms that just knocked things down. So this is our little south hayfield right next to the farm and the house yard. This is about a 5-acre hayfield, and it's just a big triangle that was originally part of the cow pasture. And here comes little George. He's way up there. His little sandbox is right underneath that last maple tree right there, so he saw me come out with the camera. So Dad got fed his lunch after raking straw. He decided he'd come out, get this cut. We've got some like 80, 88 degree days here until Thursday. So he's got 4 days to make the hay and put up the straw. So after the hay, this is gonna lay out here and dry. He can get back to the straw. He'll go down and start baling that and bring home a load of straw. We were putting up straw and hay last week, a whole lot. And I kind of stepped down wrong in the barn and went in the old manure trench clean out and sprained my ankle. It's alright, I didn't break it. But it was black and blue for a day or two, and I'm just having to kind of limit my walking around on it a little bit. So it's nice to be just walking normal and getting around. I got to get out and check on my bees, and it is way too hot to be donning all of that bee equipment and carrying anything heavy out there. So this is a good thing to be doing right now.
He's not doing a good job. He's just in the...
George says Dad's not doing a good job. And he sees what's happening. There's little clumps here and there. The storm was so heavy that it was actually knocking the hay over, and we were starting to get a lot of blossoms on this. So it was ready to cut, but you know, we knew that the rain was coming in 2 days and we need 3 days to be able to make the hay, so we had to put it off until today. I'm on the west side of the field right now. He's over at the east. So when he goes around in any other direction, it cuts really well, but when he's going that direction, it's actually stripping the stems and not cutting them really well, so he's having a little bit of difficulty with that. But it'll all work out with the next cutting. I believe this is the 3rd cutting on this field. We've been kind of bouncing back and forth between hay and straw, baling and chopping, and we had quite an adventure with that chopping and got quite a pile. We are on the very last of feeding our baled first cutting to our own cows, and we're feeding it to them because it has a high clover content, and when you bale that, the leaves look black in the clover. So you can see we've got tons of clover blossoms here, and a lot of customers don't really like that. Horse customers, you know, they are afraid that it's going to cause bloat or make their horses colicky, so we just put it aside for our own livestock. And a lot of our goat customers or sheep customers, they'll take it if it's not too much clover, and you know, it's just kind of a supplement to fill it in so we don't get so many weeds. I think this year with the spring we didn't get a whole lot of rain for a while, so that clover, the early rains helped get it really going well, and then the alfalfa was putting down roots when we weren't getting rain, allowing the clover to kind of take off. What's going on, buddy? Hi. Mosquitoes? Oh, yep, you got a new mosquito bite. They're not so bad today as they have been, but that's why I want to get the kids on lawn mowing. I am, in the meantime, working on painting in the barn. I got 2 dinner table sets out, put together and painted this last weekend, and one is already sold and gone, and hopefully the other one should be going out by Wednesday. We condensed all of my painting supplies because I was taking up the main floor of the hay barn with all of my projects that needed to be painted. And you know, when you see them for free on the side of the road, you just pick them up, and it was a little too cold for a while, so I was bringing projects into the house to paint and kind of got behind. So now that I found some good products that are allowing me to skip or bypass the sanding altogether, it's helpful in kind of recovering that barn space for him, because we put up 540 bales of straw last week and 450 bales of hay. So that main part of the barn is close to half full right now, and I'd like to make a little more space in there and just have a little less on my to-do list to go, because you know, I'm working on fixing up the rental houses and getting them ready for selling. And this last week we were over there in the rain working on the heating and air conditioning and the soffit repairs. So the rain kind of helps, you know, us kind of juggle around from job to job, and we'll work on the vehicles for the tractors in the morning while any hay is drying, and then get back to hay and straw and kind of work on the furniture intermittently when I can, and still squeeze in the housework. So today's catch up on everything day. I would say the hardest part about having this be my workshop right now is birds are flying in and out of here. So there is the occasional hay chaff that will land on a chair. So I do sometimes paint outside. This is just primer, so I'm not very concerned about it. Flies, oh, there's fly poop everywhere, and on these white chairs, if I paint underneath a tree, it's terrible. So I learned to stay away from the pine trees. They seem to have more flies under them. And if you know why, tell me, because I painted last week under the pine tree in the front yard, nice and shady, so I could watch the kids. And I came back an hour later, and my chairs were bombed with fly poop. So the next time I painted, had another set of 4 chairs to paint. I worked under a maple tree, a little further over, lots of shade, nice and breezy, nowhere near the amount of fly poop. So they're still there. I just had to deal with the mosquitoes being in the shade. So sometimes I have to go back and pick off a little loose hay or whatever to make the finish look right. But I tried a sprayer and I returned it because it did a terrible job. And I wasn't about to spend $160 on a sprayer. It was basically leaving a textured finish on the chairs. I tried thinning it. It just wasn't working out right. For the paints that I'm using, I found that the Slick Stick has been the best primer so far, and I've done 4 sets, I think, a couple of table bases, table legs. It's not real cheap. This is 16 ounces for $22, but not having to spend a day priming or buying stripper and sanding and stripping makes a big difference, so it's worth it. Gotta make sure you get everywhere. That was the thing with the sprayer too. The paint cup was making it so that I couldn't turn the sprayer where I needed to sometimes. And that's really frustrating, trying to get an angle that you can't get into. So with the primer, the key is just get it on and get it on a clean surface. So I wash and scrub all the chairs, make sure that they're clean, free of any sticky stuff or stickers. Old paint, you know, scuff all that up. Anything you can do to help. And then I like to start with the backs of the chairs because you don't want any drips on the front of the chair that you miss later on. But these spindles can be tricky, and every spindle shape is different. 2 of these chairs are slightly different than the other. They came from different places. But honestly, when they're painted white, even with them in their natural state, it's really hard to catch. And most people aren't looking at that. Overall, it's how it looks together. So 2 of these chairs I picked up at thrift store, and they were probably $4 a piece. Don't remember exactly, it's been a little while. And 2 of the chairs were stamped on the bottom, $19.95, Furniture Row, $30 a piece. And they're in really good condition and did not need anything. The pair from the thrift store came from a pet home, and they had some like dog bites on them that I had to use wood filler and sand. If you got crayon, anything like that, you got to clean it up. So that's what I mean by it's catch-up day. I'll get the primer all painted on these tops of the chairs. I did the bottoms the other day, like I said. Come back to it. That way I make sure that I'm not getting anything on the feet or the legs of the chairs, and that the bottom is getting done. Hi.
What's on this?
Dust. Don't spread it around.
Okay.
Like a wet paint. So basically what I'm doing now is just this upper portion of the chair is getting a coat of paint. And start on the back, hit the front, and then it looks like that. This is just the primer, don't touch. And then that is paint and primer, 3 coats total. We are at the end of another beautiful evening. It's 10 o'clock. He's finishing up tedding the field. He went in to have some dinner and let Trey take over with some tedding while I did my chair painting, moved the last of the first cutting bales over for tomorrow morning's feeding, and we will start it all over again tomorrow. We probably put in indoor and outdoor, probably a 16-hour day today maybe. It was a long one. We pushed pretty hard. Not all days are like this, but sometimes you gotta work a little extra hard to keep up and make up for the extra workload of the season. So, we'll go over to that straw field tomorrow and we'll see how it's looking. Well, it is the next day. We've already had our lunch break. We had some tuna fish crackers and pretzels today, some water, and right back to work. This is the first 2 loads of straw. We had a little trouble with the baler this afternoon, and we've got to see about either welding or buying some new knot tying fingers. Something happened and didn't work as it was supposed to. The plunger came back and they were still up into the bale, so they just sheared right off. He's been looking at it, and I guess they're like $180 a piece. It's a John Deere 347 Baler, and a 348 I guess is similar too. And nobody even in our state has them on hand, so he didn't know whether to go ahead and order them. He's got the chopper set up for the hay he was working on last night and had planned on chopping it anyway. So we're getting this, he's been bringing home a load plus a table full so that we can get it all in 2 or 3 loads. Seems like right about the time you get things dialed in perfectly the way you want it, then something's going to happen. And people have so many troubles with those knotters and fingers on balers that it's not going to be fun having to get in to fix that. Sometimes those direct fit swap outs don't work as you planned. We've got this unit all dialed in the way you wanted it and working much better. He's walking across that table right now. I've got tennis shoes on, and that graphite paint that I put on there, I said it makes it like ice, it's slippery. He even has a hard time with his work boots on. But those are supposed to be like an oil resistant non-slip, so it's safer for him to be walking on there than me. I'm not chancing anything with my ankle. And these days, even the 70 has been giving us trouble. He had too light of a weight of oil in it, so he drained it and did an oil change and put a heavier weight oil in it. He said it was showing low oil pressure, and that's why he went ahead and did that. And it's been hotter this summer when we've done hay. It's been like 88, 90. And Trey came back from tedding last night, and he said that it had low oil pressure. So he added some gear oil to it to kind of thicken it up a little bit so that he could work on this other field. So the lights that you saw off in the distance last night were his headlights on his tractor. He had just fixed one of the broken ones so that it would run, but he wanted to put a new bulb in it that was a bit brighter. At first I had thought it was a car coming around the curve or one of the porch lights, and one was a porch light from the first house down there, right about there, and he was coming up that far lane. So he worked till about 10:30 last night and just kept on at this and got them all done up. All his rows tedded right out. So this has been sitting and drying today while he's been working on the straw. So I was actually just in the barn finishing up the second coat on my set of chairs that I was working on yesterday, and painted up that desk so that it looks a little bit better. And it just turned out that it wasn't the desk for Bethany. So let's go take a look at that. So the hay elevator is going to get moved later on today, which could be creating some dust for me, and it was really hard for me to decide where I was going to go ahead and paint. I had these sitting out in the sun. I just got to do the back of this spindles of the chair, but he came home to unload, so I had to close it up real quick. All 4 of them got a second coat, so these will be drying today, and like when I pulled them out this morning, they were still soft. This got primed this morning, and this is a composite wood with almost like a, I don't even know what you'd call it, almost like contact paper, wood grain fake on the front. So this slick stick sticks to it and makes it so that you can paint it. But this is this shiny, super shiny, plasticky type stuff. And other than putting real wood over the top of it, there's nothing to do for it. So I took the hardware off today, took them out and spray painted them. So it's going to be pink and black. We'll pair that chair with it because it's got a white and pink pattern on the fabric that I redid. So then this chair and desk set should go out probably by the next week or maybe 2. You know, it's kind of off season, but a lot of people have switched to homeschooling in our area because of the schools being off so much, especially with little kids. They didn't want the disruption of trying to figure it out. In our area, it's almost easier to get a college student to come to you as a nanny and be your kid's teacher than to worry about what's going on with the public school system right now. And so many of the public schools have gone to online learning, that they have sent home like Chromebooks and, you know, little laptops or iPads for the kids to do home learning from. We haven't had that issue for ourselves because, you know, my kids are taught here at home by mom and dad, and we just kind of take turns on subjects and kind of work in the school work with the farm work. Today they were actually, two of them working on their lawnmowers with Dad, learning some small engine mechanics. So we've been doing all our mowing, and I've shown it in the videos. This one was acting up, and I think Trey said that it was shooting fire or something when I tried to start it. And this was at the workhouse. It wasn't a farm mower. He got this mower for free last year, and it's a self-propelled mower. And that mower, oh, yeah, the lady couldn't get it to start, so it only would start on ether. And then we found out basically the engine is weak on it. The cable is stretched out, so to get it started you need 2 people because you have to pull this really tight. For some reason this isn't going as far as it should. Maybe it has something to do with this kink. Not real sure, but you know, just the sign that it's got a zip tie on it. I don't know what that was about. Maybe they were trying to shorten it that way. And whatever's supposed to hold that on comes off. Anyways, we're working it out. So I ended up picking up this little wooden desk for Bethany for $8 at the Volunteers of America. And it's all solid wood, and it was maple, and it is almost a perfect match for what she already has. And the dollar store has this really cute contact paper that you can put in there. I've tried it on another desk that I did, and it's okay. It doesn't stick great, but maybe with a little extra adhesive. And this was just some farmhouse chalk paint that was red that I mixed in with a bunch of white regular paint that I had left over, and then I sealed it real quick with wax. So yeah, I know the lighting's not great in here, but it's pink. It's going to be just about the same as the desk out there. That way it matches her little nightstand that we did. And when her room is ready, she's got all the furniture and supplies that she needs for it. So he's off to pick up the last of his hay bales right now. And when he comes back, he'll unload them here. This has got to get pulled out. This door opens. This one is jammed. And we figured, why are we putting the hay in the barn where it can get bleached out from the sun when we can have straw in all these areas where it's not going to matter? The area above the pig loft is open and available, so we just thought it would be a lot easier to go ahead and stack it up here. I keep looking for a smaller electric hay elevator. The neighbor has one that he let us use our very first year that we were here, and we didn't have anything planted yet. We bought straw and hay from him. We got some cows locally from somebody else, and some calf steers, and little tiny hay elevator here run on an extension cord. Made it real easy to get those up there. Now, of course, you could throw them, but you'd wear out awful fast doing 300 bales. So we got all of this, as usual, filled right up. We're back to full, and we're full of tractors that all got little projects. He's got a week PTO on that one, so we haven't been using it, and he's been using the 70 for everything. So it's time to kind of get onto some maintenance and repairs of some tractors that, well, there was only so much we could do when we were doing other things, and some of these issues didn't present themselves in fall, so we didn't know to work on them in the wintertime. So here's the old baler all opened up wide so you can see what all happened. Apparently, the first thing that happened is that a bolt here gave out and broke, and that made the safety not trip. And the safety did not trip because when we bought this baler, this was put on backwards. It's supposed to be on this side of the post, allowing that to push this rod forward right here. And the brake pads apparently, well, he thinks the brake pads are wore off on that, so I think he was ordering parts for that also. I don't think the brake pads are totally wore off, but maybe. It's shiny, so we're gonna see about that. This, I think they called it a camshaft, is in good shape as far as that goes. But what happened, and he saw it before when he was working on it, things all kind of work together here, and it's supposed to hit here and make it stop. And that's what your shear bolt does for you. It shears that bolt off and makes everything stop. So when people say, you know, have an extra shear bolt on hand, well, we had all that, but because something wasn't put back together right at some point, when he took the baler apart, he put it back the same way. Well, essentially, we went down to the neighbor's. He's got a 348, just a couple of differences in it, but checked out his setup, realized that this was on the wrong side, and he's been running it that way for 10 years without an issue until there's an issue. Well, he further looked into it, and right here where this is cast or put together, he's afraid that it's cracked, and I can feel a jump in the metal, so he wants to replace this carriage. Used, a 24T Baler one was $300, and we can't find one for this model. What happened when it didn't stop is the plunger forced the bale back with the tying or knotting fingers up, and he found these laying on the ground, sheared right off. So he called the dealership. Nobody had the carriage underneath. They had one finger locally. We found another dealership a while away, so I might go out for some parts today. These were $180 a piece, and there were some aftermarket ones, but we've been finding a lot of the aftermarket imported stuff is a lot thinner steel, and he said that's a real porous cast, so he didn't think that it's going to weld up real good. So the cheapest we could find the aftermarkets were $99. They were on eBay for $114. So it might be better to pay full price and get the for real John Deere's and never have an issue again. So did you figure out a year on this? Like, do you know about how old it is?
One time I had a tire off, and it is stamped on the inside of all the rims on all this stuff. And I did know, and
like 80s or
70s maybe.
Yeah.
I think that 348 down the road is from the 80s. He's got the John Deere stickers with like the black stripes.
Yeah.
And his pickup is all green. And this is if you look at the emblems on these, that's like 70s.
Okay.
So I don't know when they started making a 347. His 348's identical in every way to this, except for the only thing we can see different is right here. You have 5 choices for your fingers, and we have 3 adjustments. So they did a little better on that. But other than that, everything looks interchangeable. And his is probably from the late 80s or something maybe. But
so total with your bolts, your fingers, and the carriage, we're looking at about how much?
The needles are $188 from John Deere. What was the cheapest ones you found?
$99. And I don't know if that was including
this
shipping.
Right here is $574 from John Deere, but if we could find a used one, that would be great. But it's pretty. This one cracked right around here.
Oh. And
cracked all the way down around, and then on the other side.
I didn't know it cracked on the side.
If you come and look at the paint, you can see what things do when it twists. It's rusty underneath, but see how that paint's all popped up in little lines? That means this pipe twisted right there. So it's going to be very hard to get that back. If you look down through here.
Yeah, see, on this side, you don't feel a difference.
If you look down through here, where these needles are supposed to come up, it's already to the point, without touching it and trying to straighten it, that the needles wouldn't even want to come through. They want to hit over here.
Yeah.
So it's twisted pretty good. And the only other thing we might have to buy besides the needles and John Deere calls it a frame. Everybody always called it a carriage, but this disc brake right here is shot too. So we might do this. I've done one of them before on something else. These parts new, not this one. And then of course, the reason this happened, because I didn't notice that somebody put this back together, and it worked for years. They put this strap around here, and obviously something got bent here. And the reason that this all happened to us is because I didn't notice that this can't work. So every time that your needles go up in the hay to get grabbed here, this thing follows this right along here. And this rod comes up here and activates this right here. This goes out. So when that plunger arm comes around, if your timing's off, that, what would you call that? That rod that runs the plunger slams into this and shears your shear bolt. So the plunger cannot come back and destroy everything like it did here. And when this was taken apart, whoever knows how many years ago, that has not been working at all. I didn't even notice.
So the new carriage is going to take care of all of this.
Everything's all one piece.
Mess here.
From this greaser down around underneath, these right here are welded right on. So your timing as far as where the needles bolt to the frame is set from the factory. And it's just, it was screwed up when we got it. It's probably it was cheap Baler. It's like $300.
Yeah.
So, but this is what caused it all right here.
Yeah.
This happened, this came apart. So when the cam came out and put the needles up, there was nothing hooked up anymore for this to get them out of the way. And that would have been okay if this would have worked.
And if he'd have caught it on time, maybe he could have stopped it before the plunger came back. He thought that the baler wasn't tying.
No,
or the needles were already broken on the ground.
Oh yeah, as soon as the plunger came back the next time, there was a perfect bale in here.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden it wouldn't tie. Well, because there was no needles to bring the string up. So the last bale was perfect, and then there was no bale. It was just strings. Yeah. You see. So I'm thinking, oh, it'll catch, because it was about time for new twine to come through. And so I went like another 30 feet, and because it always runs perfect. So anyway, here they were. So these were actually down in a bale. So then it was like, well.
Yeah. And see, I'm really on the fence about, the aftermarket versus the John Deere parts, because like when I replaced the door thing on the Buick, they kept coming with this plastic thing that kept jumping the track, and go through all that work of putting it in to have it break. As
far as your aftermarket needles, I don't think you're going to get hurt too bad. This is really not very good quality.
Yeah.
That is really, this is turned orange just sitting overnight in the dew.
Yeah.
But this is that really, really light gray colored, very porous cast. That's not anything great. So,
I just don't want to get them and spend $200 to have them break or not be right.
Yeah.
What if they're a half an inch too short or too long and hit right?
So if they were identical to these and of the same quality as the John Deere ones, and maybe they're all making them for the same.
Yeah.
Maybe they're all really the same. I don't know. If they're the same quality as this, the $99, I would do it.
However, if I ordered them yesterday, we weren't going to get them till Monday.
That's okay.
And we're a hay farm. We sell square bales of hay, and we feed square bales of hay because it's what's convenient. He's doing hay chopping today. Trey's out there raking, and he's the only one that can feed them because of the backhoe.
We're basically about done with the straw. So the neighbor's going to go, there was about 100 left when this happened for the whole season. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
So he's going to bale them, because he's going to be baling like a couple fields down. I'll go pick them up. We'll chop everything we have cut. That I was going to chop what we cut before this even happened.
Yeah.
And then we don't really have anything we have to cut right now. So we'll have the parts and have this together before we need it again.
You said something else happened with the straw last year?
Yeah.
When we did straw, we had bad luck when it comes to straw.
I had no chance to fix this, and didn't. Whatever happened to this and this years ago before we owned it, this actually cracked in the straw last year, and I put it back. Oh no, I'm sorry. They put the wrong bolt in it. So this fell apart, and I caught it and brought it back. I was only like a mile away. Put it back together with a bolt. And probably at that point, if I would have just spent the money and done it, because that's a really crappy repair.
Yeah.
If I'd have done this then, we wouldn't be talking about this now. But I didn't. I thought, well, they fixed it good enough. It's baled, what, tens of thousands of bales for us.
Sure.
They obviously had it going. I thought, well, it's pretty crappy repair, but just keep running it like we do. And this is one of those times where it leads to more expense, because you didn't just, you're like, this is going to be a lot from Deere, because not everybody,
Yeah.
So you don't do it, and then now it's cost more.
So would it? A lot of parts are interchangeable between the different models, and I'm wondering if that's bigger because of it being a bigger baler.
This is for a 347 or a 348 is something. Even the wire tie baler, this same baler with wire is a 467, and even the wire baler is not the same frame, and it's probably something to do because those have, the wire units have like a roller in here for the wire, and must be they maybe bolt different right here.
Yeah.
Because this is only for a 347 and 8. The 24T, 14T, all that stuff. 328, 338, 336, all those listed were not that part. So there's at least 2 balers that use this. So the neighbor had to do it. He had to do this.
Yeah.
And needles.
So we got online in an emergency situation and started looking for parts or broken balers or even a used baler, and a 2003 of this, I found 2 347s. One was $25,000 for a 2003, and maybe, and then I found a $30,000 baler used.
The 348, anything newer than when this was made is a it became the 348.
They have the same size pickup?
Yep.
Okay.
These are that's what's great about these, is the big wide pickup.
So when people talk about hay prices being high or whatever, when you're spending $30,000 for a used baler, that's not including labor or fuel or the tractor or the stack wagon.
There's a 2020 348 on Tractor House for almost $37,000. So 3 or 4 years ago, there was one sitting in a dealership. I think it was a 328 or 338. It was smaller. Like 3 or 4 years ago, it was $28,000 new. I think it had hand crank tension without the hydraulic pump. I think it had hand crank pickup height. I don't think it had hydraulic tongue like this actually has.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 things you can get that are fancy. And it didn't have, so anyway, I don't know what a 348 would have been 3 or 4 years ago, but when a used one is $37,000 from last year, I gotta think it'd be 40 or more. So that's a lot of bales to.
Yeah. All right, everyone, we'll get back with you on another video when we get into some parts repairs and some hay chopping, and just kind of keep you updated on what's going on the farm. So hit that notification bell down at the bottom, give us a thumbs up, and you'll know when the next video comes out. See you next time. Bye-bye.